What matters is not what we expect from life, but what life expects from us. These words from Viktor Frankl hit with the force of a revelation. Think about it. How often do we question what life owes us, what we want, or what we feel entitled to? But here's the twist. Maybe the real question isn't about what we want, but what we are called to give. This subtle shift in perspective has the power to transform how we face even the hardest moments. Life is unpredictable. One day, you're navigating your routine. The next, you're standing at the edge of a challenge so overwhelming it feels like it could swallow you whole. Maybe it's loss, heartbreak, or an unrelenting sense of purposelessness. In those moments, the question arises, why is this happening to me? But Frankl invites us to ask something radically different. What is this moment asking of me? What matters is not what we expect from life, but what life expects from us. These words from Viktor Frankl hit with the force of a revelation. Think about it. How often do we question what life owes us, what we want, or what we feel entitled to? But here's the twist. Maybe the real question isn't about what we want, but what we are called to give. This subtle shift in perspective has the power to transform how we face even the hardest moments. Life is unpredictable. One day you're navigating your routine. The next, you're standing at the edge of a challenge so overwhelming it feels like it could swallow you whole. Maybe it's loss, heartbreak, or an unrelenting sense of purposelessness. In those moments, the question arises, why is this happening to me? But Frankl invites us to ask something radically different. What is this moment asking of me? But what does it really mean to create meaning in moments of hardship? Creating meaning is not about waiting for life to hand us answers. It's an act of participation. Viktor Frankl believed that meaning is something we actively create, even and especially in the face of suffering. But what does this actually mean? Imagine standing at a crossroads during a storm. One path leads to despair, the other to resilience. The storm doesn't change, but the path you choose shapes your experience of it. This is the essence of creating meaning, deciding how to respond when life challenges you. Frankl's own story is a masterclass in this principle. During his time in Auschwitz, he noticed that those who survived the longest weren't always the strongest physically, but those who found a purpose to endure. Some clung to the hope of reuniting with loved ones. Others focused on helping fellow prisoners. Frankl himself found meaning in the hope of sharing his insights with the world after the war. This act of imagining a future beyond the suffering gave him strength to endure the present. So, how do we apply this to our own lives? It begins with understanding that meaning isn't something we find, it's something we build. When we face hardship, our instinct is often to retreat, to wait for the pain to pass. But Frankl challenges us to ask, what can I create from this? Perhaps it's a lesson, a new perspective, or even a story to inspire others. The meaning doesn't have to be grand, it just has to be yours. For example, think of someone who loses their job unexpectedly. At first, it feels like the ground has disappeared beneath them. But over time, if they shift their focus from loss to opportunity, they might discover a new career path, start a passion project, or develop resilience they never knew they had. This isn't about denying the pain, but transforming it into a stepping stone for growth. Frankl often described this process as the defiant power of the human spirit. It's the ability to stand in the face of suffering and say, I will not be defeated by this. This defiance isn't about ignoring pain, but acknowledging it while choosing to rise above it. It's about reclaiming agency in a situation where everything else feels out of control. Let's take another example. Grief. Losing someone you love can feel like an unbearable void. But what if, instead of being consumed by that void, you chose to honor their memory through action? Perhaps you start a charity in their name, write about your shared experiences, or simply carry forward the values they stood for. In doing so, you're not just coping, you're creating meaning. The beauty of Frankl's philosophy is its accessibility. You don't need to be a philosopher or a psychologist to apply it. You just need to ask yourself one simple question. What can I do, here and now, to turn this pain into purpose? It might be a small step, offering kindness to someone else, writing down your thoughts, or even just deciding to face another day with courage. This act of creating meaning is what turns suffering into growth. It doesn't erase the hardship, but it transforms your relationship with it. And this transformation is where true resilience begins. But how do we shift our perspective to see meaning in suffering, especially when it feels impossible? Perspective is everything. It's not what happens to us that defines our lives, but how we choose to see it. Viktor Frankl believed that even in the darkest moments, we have the power to shift our perspective. This isn't about ignoring the pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about choosing to view it through a lens of possibility rather than despair. Imagine looking at a cracked glass. One person sees the crack as a flaw, something that ruins the glass. Another sees it as a reminder that imperfections are part of life. The glass doesn't change, only the perspective does. This small shift can make all the difference in how we experience suffering. Frankl's message is clear. While we may not control our circumstances, we can always control the meaning we assign to them. Frankl's own life exemplifies this shift in perspective. During his time in the concentration camps, he observed that those who survived weren't necessarily the strongest or the most fortunate. Instead, they were the ones who found a way to reframe their suffering. They saw their pain not as an end, but as a pathway, a challenge to rise above their circumstances and find purpose within the chaos. This isn't easy, of course. In moments of deep suffering, the instinct is to focus on the pain, to feel trapped by it. But perspective acts as a kind of mental tool, a way to zoom out and see the bigger picture. It allows us to ask, what can this experience teach me? How can I grow from this? What meaning can I create from what feels meaningless? One way to shift perspective is through gratitude, even in the smallest forms. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it balances it. Imagine being in a storm. You might hate the rain, the wind, the cold. But if you pause and notice a single flower still standing, or the way the rain nourishes the earth, your perspective begins to change. The storm doesn't disappear, but your experience of it transforms. Frankl often spoke about the freedom of choice, the space between what happens to us and how we respond. In that space lies our power. The power to choose resilience over defeat, hope over despair, and meaning over emptiness. This is why perspective matters so deeply. It's not just a mental exercise, but a way to reclaim control in situations that feel uncontrollable. Changing perspective doesn't mean dismissing or denying pain. It means choosing to see beyond it. It's recognizing that even in the hardest moments, there's an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to redefine ourselves. Frankl called this the ultimate human freedom, the ability to choose our attitude in any given set of circumstances. Think about your own life. What challenges have you faced? What moments felt unbearable? And now, looking back, what have they taught you? This isn't to say the pain was worth it, but that you found a way to grow through it. And if you could do it before, what's stopping you from doing it again? But why is suffering often necessary for growth and self-discovery? Suffering is inevitable. No matter who we are or where we come from, pain finds its way into our lives. But Viktor Frankl saw something profound in this universal truth. Suffering is not just something to endure. It's something that can shape us, refine us, and teach us. If there is meaning in life at all, he wrote, then there must be meaning in suffering. This idea challenges us to look at our pain through a new lens, not as a punishment, but as an opportunity. Think of suffering as a sculptor. The chisel it uses may be sharp, and the process painful, but it's carving something out of us. It's revealing depths of strength, compassion, and resilience we didn't know we had. Frankl's own suffering in the concentration camps became the foundation for his life's work. He didn't seek suffering, but he chose to find purpose in it, and in doing so, he transformed not only his life, but the lives of millions. Why does suffering have this transformative power? Perhaps it's because it forces us to confront what truly matters. In moments of joy and ease, we rarely question the deeper purpose of our lives. But when we're faced with loss, uncertainty, or pain, we are stripped of distractions. We are left with the raw reality of existence, and in that rawness we have a choice to succumb to despair or to rise with purpose. Frankl observed that in suffering, people often discover their greatest strengths. A mother who loses her child might start an organization to help others in similar situations. Someone who overcomes illness might dedicate their life to supporting others facing the same battle. These stories are not about erasing pain, but about transforming it into something meaningful. But what about the suffering that seems senseless? What about the pain that feels too great to bear? Frankl doesn't deny the weight of such suffering. Instead, he teaches us that even in the most senseless pain, we can find meaning by how we respond. This response doesn't have to be grand. It might be as simple as choosing to endure another day, to offer kindness to someone else, or to keep moving forward despite the heaviness. Consider the metaphor of a seed. When buried in the darkness of the soil, it might seem like its story is over. But that very darkness is what allows the seed to grow, to push through the earth, and to reach the light. Suffering often feels like being buried, but it's in that darkness that growth begins. Frankl believed that suffering is not what defines us. Our response to it does. He wrote, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. This doesn't mean that pain magically disappears. It means that when we give it purpose, it no longer has the power to destroy us. It becomes a stepping stone, a catalyst for growth, a way to connect with others who are also struggling. The question isn't whether we will suffer, because we all will. The question is how we will respond to it. Will we let it break us, or will we let it shape us into something stronger? But how do we exercise this choice, especially when everything feels out of control? In life, there are countless things we cannot control: the circumstances we're born into, the tragedies we face, or the pain we endure. But Viktor Frankl taught us something profound. Even when everything is taken from us, one freedom remains: the freedom to choose our response. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, he wrote, the last of the human freedoms: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This power of choice is a lifeline. Imagine a prisoner in a cell. They cannot escape their physical confinement, but they can decide how they will face their reality. They can succumb to bitterness, or they can find ways to nurture hope even in the smallest acts: a kind word to another prisoner, a memory of better days, or a plan for the future. These choices may seem small, but they are monumental because they keep the spirit alive. Choice doesn't mean ignoring the pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It means deciding what role that pain will play in your story. Will it define you, or will it become the background against which your resilience shines? Consider someone who loses their job unexpectedly. At first, it's natural to feel despair. But within that despair lies a choice: to let the loss consume you, or to use it as an opportunity to explore new paths, build new skills, or even discover a passion you never had time for before. These moments of choice aren't always grand or dramatic. Sometimes they're as simple as deciding to get out of bed, to reach out to a friend, or to take one small step forward. These seemingly small acts are, in fact, acts of defiance against hopelessness. They are a declaration that, no matter how difficult the circumstances, you still have the power to choose. Frankl's own life offers a powerful example of this philosophy. In the concentration camps, he was stripped of everything: his family, his possessions, even his dignity. Yet, in the face of unimaginable suffering, he chose to focus on what he could control: his thoughts, his attitude, and his inner life. He found meaning in small acts, like offering a comforting word to a fellow prisoner, or imagining the lectures he would one day give about his experiences. These choices didn't change his external reality, but they transformed his inner world. This principle applies to all of us. While we may never face circumstances as extreme as Frankl's, we all encounter situations where we feel powerless. In those moments, the realization that we still have choices, no matter how small, can be profoundly liberating. The beauty of choice is that it doesn't depend on external circumstances. It is entirely within us. No matter how dark the situation, there is always a light we can choose to follow. This doesn't mean the path will be easy or that the pain will vanish, but it does mean that we can reclaim a sense of control, even when everything else feels chaotic. Think about a time in your own life when you felt overwhelmed. What was the smallest choice you made that helped you move forward? Maybe it was reaching out for help, focusing on one positive thing, or simply deciding to keep going. These choices are the building blocks of resilience, and they remind us that, even in our darkest moments, we are never truly powerless. But how does meaning strengthen our resilience in the face of adversity? Resilience is often misunderstood as simply enduring hardship, but Viktor Frankl offered a deeper perspective. True resilience comes not just from withstanding suffering, but from finding meaning in it. Those who have a why to live, he observed, can bear almost any how. This powerful insight reveals that purpose is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. It is the foundation upon which resilience is built. Imagine a marathon runner. As the race progresses, the physical pain becomes almost unbearable. But what keeps them going? It's not just their strength or endurance, it's the reason they're running. Maybe they're running for a cause, to honor someone they love, or to prove something to themselves. That meaning fuels them, giving them the strength to push through when their body wants to quit. The same principle applies to life's challenges. When we have a purpose, a reason to endure, we unlock a source of strength that transcends our immediate circumstances. For Frankl, this purpose was imagining the work he would do after his release, sharing his insights with the world. For others, it might be caring for their family, contributing to their community, or striving for a dream. The specifics of the purpose don't matter as much as the fact that it exists. Purpose acts as an anchor in the storm. It doesn't eliminate the waves, but it keeps us grounded, preventing us from being swept away. Without it, suffering feels random and unbearable. But with it, even the hardest moments can become part of a greater story, a story of growth, courage, and transformation. Consider the stories of people who have faced unimaginable hardships yet emerged stronger. A cancer survivor who dedicates their life to helping others navigate the disease. A refugee who becomes an advocate for peace and human rights. A grieving parent who turns their loss into a mission to prevent others from experiencing the same pain. These individuals didn't just endure their suffering, they used it as a catalyst for purpose. This isn't to say that finding meaning in pain is easy. It requires deep reflection, courage, and a willingness to confront the very things we'd rather avoid. But the effort is worth it because meaning transforms suffering. It doesn't erase the pain, but it changes its nature. It becomes a bridge to something greater, to connection, growth, and contribution. Frankl's philosophy reminds us that resilience isn't about avoiding suffering. It's about navigating it with purpose. When we anchor ourselves to a why, we gain the strength to face any how. This doesn't mean we won't falter or feel overwhelmed at times. It means that even in our weakest moments we have something to hold on to, a reason to keep going. So ask yourself, what is your why? What purpose fuels your resilience? It might be something grand, or it might be as simple as wanting to be there for someone you love. Whatever it is, hold on to it. Let it guide you through the storms, reminding you that even in the darkest moments, there is light to be found. But how can living for something greater than ourselves transform suffering into a source of purpose? In a world often focused on individual achievement and personal success, Viktor Frankl's message cuts through the noise. The deepest meaning in life often comes from living for something beyond yourself. Whether it's dedicating yourself to a cause, serving others, or contributing to something greater than your own existence, this outward focus has the power to transform suffering into purpose. Frankl believed that when we connect our pain to a higher purpose, it becomes bearable. Take, for example, a parent working tirelessly to provide for their family. The long hours, the exhaustion, and the sacrifices are not meaningless. They're fueled by love and the desire to create a better future. Similarly, someone who fights for justice or dedicates their life to improving their community often finds strength in the knowledge that their efforts contribute to a greater good. This idea of living for something greater than ourselves is not new. It's echoed in countless cultures, religions, and philosophies. From ancient teachings about service and compassion To modern movements for social change, humanity has long recognized that true fulfillment comes not from self-centered pursuits, but from giving back. Frankl himself found solace and strength in this principle. Even in the concentration camps, he focused on how his suffering could be transformed into lessons that would one day help others. He imagined lecturing about his experiences, not as a victim, but as someone who had found meaning despite unimaginable pain. This focus on serving others allowed him to endure hardships that might have otherwise crushed him. But you don't need to face extraordinary circumstances to live for something greater. Small, everyday actions can carry profound meaning. Volunteering your time, offering support to a friend in need, or simply spreading kindness in your community are all ways to transcend the self. These actions remind us that we are part of something larger, a shared humanity, a collective journey. Think about the people who inspire you. Chances are they're not just focused on themselves. They're individuals who have used their lives to make a difference, whether on a global scale or in the lives of those around them. Their legacy isn't measured by what they achieved for themselves, but by what they gave to others. Living for something greater than yourself doesn't diminish your pain. It gives it direction. It transforms suffering from something that isolates you into something that connects you to others. It allows you to turn inward struggles into outward contributions. This isn't just about altruism. It's about finding a deeper sense of fulfillment and purpose that transcends personal hardships. When we align ourselves with a cause, a community, or a mission beyond our own lives, we discover that our pain can serve a purpose. It becomes a bridge to connection, a source of strength, and a reminder that even in our darkest moments we have something to offer the world. But how do we cultivate meaning in the small, ordinary moments of life? When people think about finding meaning in life, they often imagine grand achievements or life-changing moments. But Viktor Frankl believed that meaning isn't confined to monumental events. Instead, it can be found in the simple, quiet moments of everyday life, in the way we choose to live each day, no matter how ordinary it may seem. Consider the act of sharing a meal with someone you care about. On the surface, it's just food and conversation, but beneath it lies a deeper significance: connection, love, and presence. Or think about the time you spend helping a stranger, offering a kind word, or simply listening to someone's story. These moments may feel small, but they ripple outward, creating meaning not just for you, but for those around you. The beauty of finding meaning in the ordinary is that it's accessible to everyone, regardless of their circumstances. You don't need to climb a mountain, start a movement, or change the world to live a meaningful life. You just need to pay attention to the opportunities for connection and purpose that exist all around you. Imagine starting your day by choosing gratitude, noticing the warmth of the sunlight, the taste of your morning coffee, or the sound of laughter. These moments, though fleeting, carry profound meaning because they remind us of what it means to be alive. It's in these details that we find a sense of wonder, a reason to keep moving forward, and a reminder that even the smallest things can bring joy. Frankl often spoke about the power of attitude in shaping our experience of life. When we approach the ordinary with intention and mindfulness, we transform it into something extraordinary. Folding laundry becomes an act of care for your loved ones. A routine commute becomes a chance to reflect or listen to something inspiring. Even mundane tasks can take on a sense of purpose when we frame them in the context of what they contribute to our lives or the lives of others. Think of the people in your life who seem to radiate contentment, even when their circumstances aren't ideal. Chances are they've learned to find meaning in the little things: a smile, a shared laugh, or a moment of stillness. They remind us that life's richness isn't found in rare, dramatic moments, but in the daily tapestry of experiences and choices. Finding meaning in the small moments requires a shift in perspective. It asks us to slow down, to be present, and to look beyond the surface. When we cultivate this mindset, we realize that life is full of opportunities for meaning, in our relationships, our actions, and even in our challenges. This approach doesn't minimize the pain or hardships we face. Instead, it helps us see that even amidst struggle, there are moments of beauty and significance. These moments, though brief, become anchors that keep us grounded, hopeful, and connected. But how can a change in perspective allow us to find meaning, even in the face of adversity? What if the greatest shift we could make in life isn't in our circumstances, but in the way we see them? Viktor Frankl believed that our perspective has the power to transform even the most challenging situations. He famously wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. This isn't about denying reality, but about choosing how we interpret it, and in doing so, finding meaning." Imagine being stuck in traffic. On the surface, it's a frustrating delay. But what if you chose to see it as an opportunity, a chance to listen to an audiobook, reflect on your day, or simply breathe? The situation hasn't changed, but your perspective has. Now, instead of frustration, you find a sense of calm or even gratitude. This may seem small, but it's a powerful example of how perspective shapes our experience. In moments of adversity, shifting perspective becomes even more crucial. Consider someone facing a job loss. At first, it feels like the end of the world, a failure, a setback. But with time and effort, they may come to see it as a new beginning, an opportunity to explore a different career path, learn new skills, or rediscover passions. The loss doesn't disappear, but its meaning changes. This process, called reframing or reappraisal, is at the heart of resilience. It's about looking at a situation from a different angle and asking, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? What opportunities exist here that I might not have seen before? By asking these questions, we open the door to transformation, even in the face of pain. Frankl's own life was a testament to this principle. In the concentration camps, he couldn't change his external reality, but he could change how he responded to it. By focusing on small acts of kindness, envisioning a future beyond the camps, and finding purpose in his suffering, he transformed his experience. This shift in perspective didn't erase his pain, but it gave him a reason to endure it. The same is true for us. Whether we're facing loss, disappointment, or uncertainty, our perspective determines how we navigate those challenges. By choosing to see adversity as an opportunity for growth, we reclaim a sense of agency and purpose. It doesn't make the pain easier, but it gives it direction, turning it into a stepping stone rather than a barrier. Changing our perspective is not about forcing positivity or ignoring reality. It's about recognizing that we have the power to assign meaning to our experiences. This power is both liberating and transformative. It reminds us that even when life feels out of control, we are not powerless. So the next time you face a challenge, pause and ask yourself, how can I see this differently? What meaning can I find here? These questions won't magically solve your problems, but they will help you approach them with a mindset of growth and resilience. How does embracing impermanence help us deepen our connection to life's meaning? Life is fleeting, and this truth can feel overwhelming. But Viktor Frankl and many other thinkers have argued that impermanence is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It is precisely because life is temporary that it holds meaning. Imagine a flower in bloom. Its beauty is magnified by its fragility, by the knowledge that its petals will soon fall. If it were permanent, would we treasure it as much? Impermanence teaches us to value the present. Every moment, every experience, every relationship becomes more precious when we recognize that it won't last forever. Instead of seeing this as a reason for despair, we can see it as an invitation to live fully, to cherish what we have while we have it, to love deeply, act meaningfully, and make the most of our time. This idea is reflected in countless philosophies and traditions. In Buddhism, for example, impermanence, or anicca, is seen as a fundamental truth of existence. By accepting that everything is transient, we free ourselves from clinging to what we cannot hold and from fearing what we cannot avoid. Instead, we learn to flow with life, finding peace and meaning in its rhythms. In Frankl's life, the awareness of impermanence shaped his philosophy. He saw how quickly life could be taken away, yet he used that understanding to deepen his appreciation for it. Rather than becoming paralyzed by the knowledge of life's fragility, he was inspired to live with purpose and to encourage others to do the same. On a practical level, embracing impermanence changes how we approach our daily lives. It reminds us to be present, to put down our distractions, and truly engage with the people and experiences around us. It encourages us to forgive more easily, to let go of grudges, and to prioritize what really matters. Think about the relationships in your life. How often do we take loved ones for granted, assuming they'll always be there? But when we remember that our time together is finite, we're inspired to show more love, express more gratitude, and create memories that will last a lifetime. The same is true for our goals and passions. Knowing we have limited time can motivate us to take action, to stop waiting for the perfect moment, and to start living fully now. Embracing impermanence doesn't mean giving up hope or living in fear of loss. It means recognizing life's fragility and allowing that recognition to guide us toward what truly matters. It means seeing each moment, not as something to cling to, but as a gift to be experienced. As we conclude this journey, let's return to the heart of Frankl's message. Life's meaning is not handed to us. It is something we create, moment by moment, through our choices, our actions, and our perspective. And when we embrace impermanence, we deepen our ability to create that meaning. We see life not as something to control, but as something to cherish. As we reach the end of this exploration, let's reflect on what Viktor Frankl's philosophy has illuminated for us. Life's meaning is not something distant, waiting to be discovered in grand achievements or rare moments. Instead, it's woven into the fabric of our daily lives, in how we respond to challenges, connect with others, and embrace the fleeting beauty of the present. From enduring suffering with purpose to finding significance in the ordinary, Frankl's wisdom reminds us that meaning is always within our reach. Even in the darkest times, we have the power to choose how we see the world and how we act within it. And it's through these choices that we create a life of depth, resilience, and fulfillment. Imagine carrying this mindset into your own life. How would your days change if you approached them with the awareness that each moment matters? How would you treat your loved ones, pursue your passions, or face difficulties if you truly believed that meaning is found not in avoiding pain, but in transforming it? Let this be your challenge and your inspiration. To live not passively, waiting for life to deliver meaning, but actively, creating it through your thoughts, actions, and purpose. As Frankl so powerfully put it, life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What does meaning mean to you? Share your perspective in the comments below. And if this video resonated with you, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. If you're passionate about exploring deeper insights like this, consider subscribing and joining us every day for more thought-provoking reflections. Together, we can continue this journey of finding meaning and purpose in life. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.